This is a video on how to graph two variable inequalities. So one note about this quickly is that this is a two variable inequality because there are two variables, as opposed to solving an inequality that has a number on one side or an x squared term, and you would have to bring everything to one side to make it a zero. A two variable inequality has x's and y's, and you won't be asked to quote unquote solve. You would be asked to graph. And here's how you would do that. So step one is to graph this function itself. And here I would do that by finding probably the h and k. I'll use a formula for that because this is in general form. H is negative b over 2a. And my k is the y value when I plug in my h as the x. So negative 3 squared plus 6 times negative 3 plus 8 works out to be negative 1. So that point, negative 3, negative 1, is my hk. That's 1 point on the parabola. Then I'll pick some other x's, typically that are close to that. Like if I plugged in negative 2 squared is 4, minus 12 plus 8. Negative 2 as an x gives me 0 as a y. If I plugged in negative 1 squared is 1, minus 6 is negative 5 plus 8 is positive 3. That's my next point. And by symmetry, these same 2 points appear on the other side as well. So now I can draw in my parabola. The thing is that because I have a strictly greater than or a strictly less than would be the same, I draw in my graph with broken dashed or dotted lines. If it had been or equal, it would be solid. And finally, I have to shade one side. How do I know which one? The shortcut is that if y is greater than or equal to, if the y part is bigger, I shade above this line that I drew. In this case, if I take any point and I look above it is in this region up here, below would be down here. So because I'm shading above, this is the region that I shade. Another way to look at it is to pick any point that isn't on the parabola, like, I don't know, let's say 0, 0. That point, if I plug it in as an x and a y, I would get 0 squared plus 0 plus, that's 8. And 0 is not bigger than 8. This point is not correct. So this whole region, this whole outside region is false, and the inside region is the one that gets shaded. If I had plugged in a point in there, like let's say negative 3, 0, negative 3 squared minus 18 plus 8, that's 9, minus 18 plus 8, that's negative 1. That is less than 0. So it turns out that in here is true. That's the part that gets shaded. That is the answer. And if, let's say, I had given you the same function, but less than or equal to, well, first of all, so I'd have the same points, I'd have the same hk, I'd have the same other points on this side and the same other points on this side that didn't line up properly, but you get the idea. When I draw in my graph, first of all, it would be a solid line because this is a less than or equal. And because it's less than, y would be below. It's below this line, which is this region out here. And that's how you graph a two variable quadratic inequality.